I've audited hundreds of D2C Google Ads accounts, and almost everyone makes at least 3 of the following 6 mistakes. And none of them are showing up as wasted spend in your dashboard. And that's why they go unnoticed for months. 5 of these 6 mistakes I've seen repeatedly over the last 5 years. I couldn't tell you the last audit that I ran where I didn't see at least one of them. But the 6th mistake is one that I'm noticing only since people have started relying on Claude this year. And it's a mistake that can quietly block the very traffic that's making you money. So let's get into it. So mistake number 1 is running your branded campaigns on maximize conversion value. This essentially acts as a license to tell Google to overspend on the warmest traffic that you possess. Because your branded campaigns essentially print money, you tell Google maximize this revenue. But uncapped maximize conversion value, which is essentially uncapped to ROAS, pointed at traffic that is already going to convert, is going to lead to a picture like we're seeing here, where this brand should be getting cost per conversions in the single digit dollar amount, $5 or $6. They're paying $64 cost per conversion to win people already typing their name. So what ends up happening when you have your branded campaigns on maximize conversion value is that Google is just going to bid up the price because it really is very confident that this traffic is going to convert. So because of that, it places a premium on this traffic, but this is a premium for a demand that you already own. These people are already searching for your brand name. So your CPCs climb, and then this problem compounds as you scale. So the more you scale on Meta and the more you scale on upper funnel activity on Google, the more branded traffic that will exist, and then the more wasted spend that will also coexist as a result. So what I recommend is having tight match types. So keep your core queries on exact match and also phrase match. I personally prefer manual CPC. And then what I like to do is gradually bring down that bid while monitoring my impression share to ensure that I'm not losing out on impression share, keeping that around 90% or so. And with that setup, we are able to be 60, 70, 80, sometimes even 90% in a brand like the one I just showed, more efficient with our brand campaigns. Now, I don't really like spending a lot of time on branded traffic. It's not incremental. It's not really what, the dialogue should be about when it comes to Google. But the problem I see so often is that people are overpaying for this real bottom of funnel traffic. And then point number 2 or mistake number 2 is not segmenting brand from non-brand. So you have your branded traffic then bleeding into search, shopping, and performance max. And all of these campaigns then subsequently take credit for it. So the cheap branded conversions get blended into everything. So you can see an example here. This is a quote unquote non-brand performance max campaign. And of these 10 search terms sorted by volume of conversions, 9 of the 10 are branded conversions. So if you're serious about growing your brand at all, or if you're serious about growing on Google, this costs you in a number of different ways, because effectively what it spits out is this blended ROAS figure, which is ultimately lying to you. You think your ROAS in your prospecting campaigns on Google is fantastic, but that's not the case. Not only then is it an issue for you with your interpretation of the data, but it's also an issue for Google's smart bidding algorithms, because it will always default to the easiest conversions available to it, which is going to be branded and warm traffic. So then your true non-brand performance is hidden, which makes it very difficult to compare apples with apples. So let's say your Meta prospecting versus your Google non-brand, and makes it very difficult then to determine where is the best place to put additional budget to allow you to grow your store beyond perhaps a current plateau that you're experiencing. So you should isolate your brand campaigns, have your brand exclusions and your negative brand lists set up in your performance max campaigns, your non-brand shopping, your non-brand search, and then set up a dedicated branded search and a dedicated branded shopping campaign. Search is very straightforward. You target keywords. Shopping tends to be slightly more complex. You have to have a dedicated architecture set up that allows you to segment brand and non-brand. But once you do set it up, what you'll find is that it'll be much easier to make proper decisions around your prospecting efforts on Google. Mistake number 3 is something I see even in huge counts, and this is over segmentation. So campaigns are starved of the data they need to learn. So you can take an example like this, you can have 6 or 9 campaigns here, and their monthly conversions are 11 or 8 or 14 or 6. But what it looks like is a very clean segmentation of campaign A is for a particular product category, or campaign B is for our hero product, or campaign C is targeting women. So people think, okay, it's very well organized. I'm fantastic. This is great. So it looks a clean structure on paper, but every campaign is half starved in practice. What this means is that these campaigns won't exit the learning phase. So they get too few conversions to actually be allowed to stabilize. You're then optimizing on noise as opposed to signal because you have very thin data between campaigns. So some days you'll have no conversions, some days you'll have 2, 3, 5, 10, whatever the case may be. So it's not real signal. So it's very much noise. What we say is a rough estimate of a floor under which we really don't like segmenting campaigns is 30 to 50 monthly conversions per campaign. So consolidating, having fewer campaigns, but more dense data. So where intent or themes overlaps, you should have those within single campaigns. So that gives the algorithm more volume to work with. And I rather you segment at an ad group in the case of search or shopping, or an asset group in the case of performance max at that level, because within a single campaign, you can have multiple ad groups and multiple asset groups that will at least speak with each other slightly better than, say, segmented campaigns. So they all sit under a single campaign and have multiple ad groups. And those ad groups then are split by relevance. So if you're targeting different product categories, let's say you're an apparel store and you're targeting men's t-shirts, men's jeans, women's t-shirts, women's jeans. If your targets for each of those groups is equal. Next up is specifically in relation to Google Merchant Center, specifically around your product titles. The mistake I see most brands making is that they're leading their product titles with their brand name. So they're wasting their single most valuable signal. And in this case, you can see an example. This is Madewell and More. And you can see they're leading with their brand name, and then they're leading with a particular product name. So the 1991 straight leg raw jean, I assume. The issue here is that the first 2, if not 4 words carry no category search demand. Nobody's searching for Madewell Men's, the 1991 straight leg, blah, blah, blah. And if they are, they've already seen an ad from Meta or somewhere else. So they're really warm. So this is essentially branded traffic. So what happens is the first words in your product title are going to carry the most weight. Google is going to read them first and index from there. And then you end up serving these shopping ads to the very traffic that you're not looking to serve it to, which is generally very warm, bottom of funnel, or even branded traffic. The title itself is your number one relevance signal in shopping, or PMax if you're running your shopping through PMax. If you have really poor product titles that lead with your own product nomenclature or your own brand name that isn't in any shape or form relevant to cold traffic, well, then you're going to lower your relevance to cold discovery searches, which is ultimately why a lot of you feel like Google won't and can't scale into cold traffic for your brand. You will then obviously get less visibility on those queries that convert, particularly around those product category queries that you really should be using Google to serve and convert on. And as I said, your product title outranks essentially every other field you can edit when it comes to providing Google with a really good relevant signal. So a general rule of thumb, this will change by niche. Your product type, so product category, then your USP, so one thing that sets this product apart, because not only is your product important for Google to index, but it's also important for your customers to see, prospective customers, and go, okay, why should I click on this product? Key attributes then, so these will vary depending on what it is you're selling. Obviously, if you sell apparel, material, fit, size, color, gender, they're all really important. And then, only then, if you have space at the end, would I recommend adding your brand name. So you can see the difference here, same product, but a very different signal. So the brand name here, let's say it was Joe's Tees crew neck. And then after, it's organic cotton crew neck t-shirt, men's, heavyweight, pre-shrunk, and then we could say Joel's Tees at the end. What this does for us is that each individual keyword acts as a relevant signal to Google. So cotton crew neck, organic cotton, t-shirt, heavyweight, pre-shrunk. These expand the type of queries, particularly with cold, more discovery focused traffic that we can serve this product for. And you can see how different that is to what a lot of you brands are typically running. Mistake number 5 of 6 is over optimizing. So you're tweaking your bids and your budgets every single day. So you check your account every day and you fix something once a day. So what you're doing is you're reacting to yesterday's numbers before they mean anything. So you get to a point where, okay, we have a bit of stability, and then bang, big change. So you're back to kind of learning. Okay, give it a day or two. No, I don't like what we saw yesterday. Bang, straight back down, and we're back into learning. So you never climb up to this line of stabilization. And there is a psychological reason to this, and it becomes a compulsion with time. So there's a part of the brain that is called the anterior cingulate cortex, and that exists to flag when something looks off. And essentially it acts like, an alarm. So you get this alarm, it fires in your brain, and you make a change. So it's a bid, or it's a budget change, or you're changing a target. It doesn't really matter what the change is. What matters is that you've acted upon this alarm. And once you've acted upon something and you feel like, okay, I've done something there, that discomfort that the alarm is triggering in your brain tends to sort of evaporate. And then your brain learns that, oh, it's actually, I get kind of dopamine from tweaking these buttons inside this ad account. It feels good. So then you go back and you restart the loop. The next day you see something else you don't like, you change it again. And when you keep, following through in this compulsion loop, the account performance worsens. So the desire to fix it, the compulsion, increases and it becomes this vicious. So every change is going to reset the learning phase. And most of you are doing this chasing noise as opposed to signal. And daily data isn't statistically real. Particularly in Google, you've got things like conversion lag. If you just increase your budgets as an example, or you've just created a new campaign expanding into more kind of cold traffic, well, then those people are going to take longer to progress through the conversion funnel itself if you're not giving them adequate time to actually ascertain whether or not this new campaign is working. Well, then your data isn't statistically real and you're making changes before you can actually learn anything. So try to optimize on a cadence. This will be very different for all different brands, depending on what you're spending, how many campaigns, how many products you have, what your unit economics are like. But try to set some form of a rhythm. And obviously you'll be changing things outside of this rhythm, particularly if something does go wrong or you have something in store that needs to be changed. And then with your budgets, don't be increasing your budget 10% one day, back down 20% the next. It's no value to you. You should be either increasing or decreasing in a more measured approach. We generally say 20, 30% max. And even on that higher side, I would generally steer away from the lower the budget incremental increases or decreases, the better the algorithm obviously will respond. And then try to judge on meaningful windows. So let's say it takes, a conversion path typically is 14 days. There is no point in you reviewing data across the last 3 days only to make your decision. So have a look back window of 3 days and 7 days and 14 days and 30 days and 60 days and look at the trend across those. So don't just take one look back window in isolation and go, okay, the last 3 days haven't been great, let's cut everything. That is not the approach that you want to take. Mistake number 6. This is the mistake I'm seeing more and more in 2026 since people are beginning to use Claude and use the MCP in Claude. And I don't really hear that many people talking about this potential red flag, but it's letting AI make all of your decisions for you, or ultimately having an element of confirmatory bias when it comes to using AI, particularly for data and analysis. So a recent example from last week, I was speaking with a brand and I was asking them how they go about adding negative keywords to their keyword list, because I said, I have never seen so many negative keywords inside a single account. And I said, look, I'm not sure, is this being over optimized? Because it was happening over the last 3-4 months and gradually their volume in the account was getting less and less. And what they were saying is, we give Claude our daily search term report and Claude excludes anything that isn't converting over the last 24 hours. And I thought this was absolutely barbaric, because what happens if it converted the day before? And there was no rhyme or reason to this. Well, they said, look, well, if it doesn't convert, then we don't want to be serving for it. But ultimately, when you say it out loud, it's such a shallow approach. And when I told them to consider the idea that a 24-hour search term report could easily lead to a whole host of issues and then blocking keywords that they really want to be serving for, then it was a bit of a light bulb moment. But it feels like people are using LLMs or seeing things on LinkedIn or X of, media buying is dead. I just plug in my Claude MCP and it does all the work for me. This is really dangerous. And this is coming from someone who uses Claude every single day in our accounts and everything like that. And it's, changed how we run the business. But a lot of what we're using Claude for is to provide us with the raw data that we would otherwise be fetching manually. And then it's up to ourselves, when we have the whole context of the business, the whole context of the campaign architecture, what it is we're trying to achieve, the unit economics, etc., that we then go and make decisions from it. So without context, AI blocks the traffic you actually want. It can't see what's converting. It doesn't know your margins or intent. It doesn't know which terms are brand even sometimes. And then one bad list can starve a whole campaign or even a whole account. So AI is a brilliant assistant. It's generally a terrible autopilot. That isn't the case if you actually know what you're doing, but for the vast majority of people, they create a terrible autopilot. And as a result, their accounts are really getting suffocated in search of efficiency from AI. So those are the 6 mistakes, and each one of those are essentially fighting Google's algorithm, which is getting increasingly more powerful, instead of feeding it the real raw data that it needs to succeed. Your job, if you're a brand owner, a CMO, or a media buyer managing Google ads for your clients, is to protect the own demand and not overpay for it, isolate the account in true incrementality, feed the account dense data, and fix the inputs, and then just get out of the way. So that is the 6 mistakes. If you spotted even one of them in your account right now, well, then it's actively costing you money. Knowing them is, of course, the easy part, and fixing them isn't necessarily just one setting. It's your structure, it's your tracking, your bidding, all working together. So if you are a D2C brand doing north of 100K per month and you'd rather not handle all of this yourself, but instead have a specialist Google ad agency turn the channel into something reliable, concrete, and consistent for you, then that is, of course, what we do at Vulcan Digital. There is a link in the description to book a free strategy call with me. We'll sit down, we'll map out exactly what's going on in the business and see where and how Google can fit into growing your business and hitting those goals that you have for 2026. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.